The rain was pouring so hard that the city lights looked like blurry tears falling from the sky. Inside a small, old mechanic shop on the edge of town, a tired single father named Kellen Voss stared at an unpaid repair bill worth only $199, not knowing that this tiny amount of money would soon change his entire life forever. He had no idea that within the next 24 hours, the same people who looked down on him would discover his true worth, and his life would be transformed in a way nobody could have imagined. Before we begin this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of treating every person with respect, take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales. Kellen Voss was not the kind of man people noticed when he walked into a room. He wore simple clothes, his hands were always covered in grease, and his eyes carried the quiet exhaustion of someone who had spent years fighting battles nobody else could see. At 39 years old, he was raising his 10-year-old daughter, Mira, all by himself after losing his wife years earlier to a sudden illness. Every morning before sunrise, Kellen would quietly leave their tiny rented home, prepare a small breakfast for Mira, leave a note telling her how much he loved her, and walk to his mechanic shop. The shop was nothing impressive. The paint was fading, the sign above the door was cracked, and the equipment was old. But to Kellen, it was more than a workplace. It was the place where he built his dignity one repair at a time. He never became rich, but he always tried to live honestly. He fixed cars for elderly people who could barely afford repairs. He helped struggling families by lowering prices whenever he could. Sometimes customers promised to pay him later, and many never returned. Still, Kellen believed that a good heart was worth more than a full wallet. But life had been getting harder. The bills were growing. Mira needed school supplies. The rent was increasing. The old shop needed repairs. And Kellen's aging tools were breaking one after another. Some nights, after putting Mira to sleep, he would sit alone at the kitchen table, looking at unpaid bills under the dim light, wondering how long he could keep pretending everything was fine. Then came the day that changed everything. A luxury black car stopped outside his mechanic shop. It was the kind of vehicle Kellen usually only saw in magazines. A woman stepped out wearing an expensive suit and carrying herself with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. Her name was Sienna Marlowe. She was the CEO of one of the biggest technology companies in the country. Her company had grown from a small startup into a global empire, and Sienna had become known as a brilliant businesswoman who could negotiate million-dollar deals without blinking. But success had made her impatient. Her expensive car had a minor mechanical issue, and her assistant told her the nearest mechanic was Kellen's shop. Kellen greeted her politely and inspected the vehicle. After a careful examination, he discovered the problem and spent hours repairing it. He replaced a damaged part, tested everything twice, and made sure the car was safe. When he handed her the bill, it was only $199. Sienna looked at the paper and frowned. She looked around the small shop, then back at Kellen. She could not believe someone was charging her for such a simple repair. Kellen calmly explained that the price included the parts and his labor. He told her he had even adjusted the cost because he found a way to save her money. But Sienna did not see his honesty. She saw only a mechanic asking her for $199. She questioned the bill, saying someone with her status should not be charged like an ordinary customer. Her words were cold, and each one hit Kellen harder than she realized. Kellen tried to remain respectful. He told her that every customer deserved the same service, no matter how much money they had. That sentence only made her more annoyed. She refused to pay. She told him she would not give a single dollar for a repair she believed was overpriced. Then she walked back to her car and drove away, leaving Kellen standing in the rain with a bill that was worth almost nothing to someone like her, but everything to him. That night, Kellen returned home exhausted. Mira noticed immediately that something was wrong. She asked her father why he looked sad, and Kellen forced a smile. He did not want his daughter carrying his problems. He simply told her that sometimes people forget how much small acts of respect matter. Mira held his hand and told him something that stayed with him. She said, "Dad, the world might not always notice good people, but that doesn't mean goodness disappears." Kellen smiled because his daughter had no idea how much he needed to hear those words. Meanwhile, across the city, Sienna Marlowe sat inside her luxurious home, surrounded by everything money could buy. Yet she felt strangely empty. That evening, her father, Adrian Marlowe, a retired businessman and the founder of the company she now controlled, visited her. Adrian was older now, but his wisdom was sharper than ever. He noticed the tension on his daughter's face and asked what happened. At first, Sienna ignored the question. But eventually, she told him about the mechanic who had argued with her over a $199 bill. Adrian listened carefully. Then he asked one simple question. "Did you know his story?" Sienna became quiet. She admitted she did not. Adrian looked disappointed, not angry. He reminded her that when he built his first company, he depended on people like mechanics, drivers, cleaners, and workers who gave their best every day. He told her that wealth could buy comfort, but it could never buy character. Those words stayed with Sienna. Later that night, Adrian asked his assistant to find information about Kellen Voss. What they discovered shocked them. Kellen had repaired vehicles for struggling families without expecting payment. He had helped a community center keep their old bus running. He had worked through illness and exhaustion because his daughter depended on him. And then Adrian found something even more surprising. Years earlier, Kellen had helped him. When Adrian's car broke down on a freezing night during the early days of his career, a young mechanic had repaired it and refused extra money, saying, "Everyone deserves help when they need it." That mechanic had been Kellen. Adrian realized the man his daughter insulted was the same person who once helped him when nobody knew his name. The next morning, Adrian walked into Kellen's shop. Kellen was shocked to see him. He expected another complaint. Instead, Adrian apologized. He told Kellen that his daughter had made a mistake and that he was sorry for the disrespect he had received. Kellen simply said that he understood. He did not speak with anger. He did not demand revenge. That surprised Adrian even more. He asked Kellen why he remained kind after being treated unfairly. Kellen looked at the old tools around his shop and quietly said that life had already taken enough from him. He did not want pain to turn him into someone he was not. Adrian smiled. Then he handed Kellen an envelope. Kellen opened it and froze. Inside was a legal document transferring a massive amount of wealth. Adrian told him he wanted to reward the kind of person who reminded him what humanity looked like. The amount was unbelievable. $19 million. Kellen could barely speak. He thought it was impossible. He told Adrian he did not deserve that kind of money. But Adrian replied that it was never about the money. It was about recognizing someone who had spent his whole life giving without expecting anything back. When Sienna arrived and saw what was happening, she was overwhelmed with emotion. For the first time in years, she looked beyond titles, companies, and success. She saw a tired father who had spent his life doing his best. She apologized to Kellen. Not as a CEO. Not as a powerful businesswoman. But as a person. Kellen accepted her apology, because he knew that people could make mistakes and still have the chance to change. The money transformed Kellen's life, but not in the way people expected. He did not buy a mansion or expensive cars. The first thing he did was repair his old mechanic shop and turn it into a place where young mechanics could learn their craft. He created a program that helped single parents find stable work. He paid off the debts of people who had once helped him. And he made sure Mira grew up knowing that kindness was never weakness. Years later, people still talked about the mechanic who received millions from a CEO's father. But the real story was not about the money. It was about a $199 bill that revealed the difference between someone's wealth and someone's worth. Sometimes, the smallest moments show us the biggest truths. A person's value is not measured by their clothes, their job, or their bank account. It is measured by the kindness they leave behind. And if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes kindness still matters, and subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales for more stories that remind us of the good still left in the world. Before the story ends, leave a comment with the words, "Kindness always wins," because your words might inspire someone else who needs hope today. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness can return to us in ways we never expected.